Welcome to Generating Gratitude, a look at personal growth in a grateful life. What follows is not professional advice or medical recommendation, but stories and perspectives about living with gratitude. Now, here is your host, Joe Volk.
Hello, everybody. Grateful you could be with us. Time for another blazing edition of Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Joe, your host. Grateful that you could be with us today. Remember, you can't be hateful and you can't be grateful at the same time. So today we're going to be grateful. And my first guest today is Michaela Steele. She's a prevention specialist for the Saginaw, Chippewa Indian tribe over in Mount Pleasant. Plus, there's a little bit more nuance to her title. Michaela, how are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Explain the nuance to your title. Now, you're the prevention specialist, but there's a bunch of other stuff on there, too, that I kind of forgot.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I am a prevention specialist under a SAMHSA grant called Native Connections. And with that grant, we get this special funding through the federal government and stuff. And it's so what it does is it provides resources and employees to help service Native American youth from as young as 10 years old to as old as 24 in the community who may be struggling with substance abuse or suicide, whether it's them personally or somebody in their family. And we're here to help build resiliency. And, our biggest thing is culture is prevention. And so we really lean into that to help our youth defy the odds that might be against them.
What are some of the special challenges, Michaela, to Native American youth? Special challenges out there. We all know challenges to youth in general because there's so much crap out there and there's so much bad stuff out there. But what to Native American youth, what are some of the special challenges?
So some unique challenges that Native American youth face is our biggest one is intergenerational trauma. And a lot of that stems from the boarding school era and the 60s scoops where children were taken from tribal communities and placed in these non-Indigenous homes and facilities. So they were taken from their family in that traditional structure. And so a lot of that comes with that generational trauma of not knowing how to parent, not knowing healthy lifestyles. And so we're here to remind everybody that, our ancestors were resilient, and so are we. We're still here, and we're still fighting that battle. And it's not an easy battle, but it's possible. I mean, we have so many community members who have come so far in their own struggles with addiction and mental health. And that's one thing is these topics tend to be very taboo. We don't talk about them. But we're starting that conversation and making it a point to talk about it. Because just like any community, not even just tribal communities, suicide and substance misuse tend to be swept under the rug and kind of shushed. And we're changing that. We're talking about it, and we're listening, and we're sharing.
Explain a little bit, Michaela. I want to go back to the boarding school thing, and because we don't really hear about that. Where how long ago did this happen, and go into a little bit more detail, because again, for this audience, like me, for example, I've never heard of it.
Okay, so boarding school era started in 1893. Don't quote me though.
Right, yeah.
It started with this gentleman called Richard Pratt, and it was believed that his biggest catchphrase that a lot of people may have heard, may not have heard, is "Kill the Indian, save the man." And this was to eradicate and dismantle Native American culture and lifestyle ways. And so by doing that, they were removing children from the families and putting them into boarding schools where they cut their hair, prevented them from speaking their language, preventing them from practicing their cultural ways, our ceremonies, our language, all of these traditions. And so because of that, they were taken from their families. They were taken from what they knew. And in boarding schools, oftentimes, unfortunately, children faced a lot of violence, physical, sexual, emotional, mental. And so that really plays a toll. And again, for many generations too, we get that stigma of we don't talk about things. We don't talk about the bad, or the saying, men don't cry, boys don't cry. We don't show emotion. We don't let people know and understand how we're feeling and what's going on. And so that right there kind of stems and led into this, because with all of that turmoil that these children had faced and went through, they turned to alcohol and drugs and mental health. They struggle because they feel like they can't talk to anybody. And it's not even stories. This is people's horror in their lives that they experienced. And that takes a toll, because then they didn't learn what love was. They didn't learn how to show emotion, how to talk about things. And so that kind of creates what's called that generational trauma, because, if you look at older generations and some of the social norms from the past is people didn't hug, you didn't tell your children, I love you. You didn't always share all of that because people just didn't know how to, and that's okay. We're changing that though. We're talking about our feelings. We're talking about the struggles of mental health and substance abuse to kind of get down to the bottom of that intergenerational trauma and breaking those cycles that have caused pain and turmoil and negative impacts on families. And so that's kind of like the backstory of boarding schools. I try not to go too deep into it because it can be a lot.
That's an amazing story.
It's a hard topic.
Right. It's an amazing story that's never told. Before I was preparing for this interview, I had never heard of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of it.
Yep. The last boarding school to close in North America closed in Canada in 1996.
Really?
So that's 29 years ago. I am 30 years old. My grandparents attended boarding school. There was a boarding school, a Native American industrial boarding school right here in Mount Pleasant that was operated for 50 plus years. And I don't remember when it closed down, but we have a annual honoring, healing, and remembering event at the location of the boarding school, because we still have the buildings that stand. It's not all of the original buildings, but we have about 3 to 4 of the buildings that still stand today in 2025. And we pay homage and remembrance to all those children who never came home, or the children who did come home but were left with such severe trauma and loss and grief and everything. And so we do that every year. And that's something else that goes along with substance abuse and mental health well-being in all communities, not just tribal communities. Trauma affects everybody in all forms. And that's really where substance abuse kind of starts. We all have experienced some sort of trauma. And the next thing you know, you could be spiraling into addiction or just misuse. But it's, we're here to change that and here to help create better coping skills.
Michaela, we're going to take a short commercial break here. When we come back, we'll talk more about topic near and dear to my heart, addiction. I'm a 39-year recovering alcoholic, plus suicide prevention and topics like that. And we'll get right back to it. Just a second. You're listening to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. I'm Joe, your host. Michaela Steele, prevention specialist for the Saginaw Chippewa tribe, is with us. And she just told an amazing story, a horrible story about trauma in boarding schools. And Michaela, as part of your job as prevention specialist, substance abuse is a problem. And it's a problem that we never really talk about, or we never really discuss. Explain a little bit about your role and what you do, because you'd mentioned trauma. And, as a recovering alcoholic, there was trauma there. And dealing with the trauma is tough because we're not taught skills to cope. You mentioned earlier in the interview about, men don't cry. And last week I had Eric Hipple, the former Lions quarterback, on, whose new book, Boys Do Cry. Explain a little bit about, how we have to change that from dealing with trauma of putting it out in the open, as opposed to dealing with it inwardly, because when we deal with it inwardly, that's when the substance abuse happens.
Yes, yeah. And so just to share a little bit of my story, I am 12 years sober of opiates and narcotics. As a teenager, I experienced trauma, some severe trauma, and that spiraled into me spending like 3 years being very heavily into alcohol and drugs that today I couldn't tell you what I've put into my body. But as a prevention specialist, this kind of holds near and dear to my heart. The work I'm trying to do is because, with that trauma and everything, we're always taught we don't cry, we don't show emotion. For like men and boys, we don't cry. It's, you don't show your emotion. And then girls and women, it's tend to, we're not going to talk about it. That's not pretty. That's not kind. And to sweep things under the rug and things like that. And that's not what we want to teach our children anymore. We don't want people to suffer in silence, because when you're suffering in silence, that's when all of the really dark thoughts and the dark things come to play. A lot of people tend to feel like they have to carry the weight of the world by themselves, and that they're all alone, and they're not. Another thing, too, with my story is I have struggled with mental health, taking care of myself, taking care of my mental well-being, not even just as an individual, but as a parent of 3 young children. And so working in prevention, I hold it near and dear to my heart, because I know those struggles, and I don't want to see my children or other children in the community, or young adults even, struggle with that pain and that suffering, because at the end of the day, we're all here for a reason. We're all loved. There's always going to be somebody in the world that cares about us and that wants to hear our story and wants us to know that we're important. And so with that, just the prevention work, it's just so important, because it's just not talked about enough.
Right. And today, Michaela, with social media is the worst.
Yes,
because
it is.
Social media is telling all these kids what they should be, and everybody's having this contest on social media to my life is perfect and my life is great, and really the more that you try to convince convince people that things are good and your life is great and you're popular and you've got friends, the more you're trying to convince yourself, and the more the opposite
Yes.
is true.
Yes, absolutely. Social media, it's a game changer. I mean, growing up for myself and you, like, I had social media as a teenager, but nowhere near at the level it is today. Kids are constantly engaged on social media in some form or another, and so the world has constant access to them. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on people. And also, we tend to only post, the good stuff that happened in our lives. So, when you're an outsider looking in, you think somebody's living this amazing life, that they're doing so phenomenal. And that's where the mental health comes in. What a lot of people, we wear this mask to the world that, hides what's going on inside. And that's another thing that we're trying to do and trying to teach. What I want to teach is, let's take that mask off. Let's share our emotions. Let's talk about this stuff. Because in all reality, we're not alone. We could be sitting next to a coworker or standing next to somebody at the coffee shop that is struggling just as much as we are, if not worse. And so to be able to share that and have that connectedness, that's what's really important.
Right. We have to break that cycle of self-imposed isolation, because isolation is, if you're alone, when I'm alone, with my thoughts, that's not really good, because I'm a recovering alcoholic. So basically I'm alone with a sick alcoholic who, despite the years of sobriety, will still convince myself that, taking a drink might be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just as guilty. My personal life, I had some things go on 4 or 5 months ago. And so during the holidays, I was isolated and I struggled. I started struggling really bad. But, on the flip side of social media, I found some great people, Indigenous community members across Indian country, not even in the States, but in Canada, who I have connected with and networked with, who talk about the same things that I want to talk about, and that, that we all face struggles. And so I found that community that I didn't realize I was missing. And I've been able to bring that community to Mount Pleasant for the youth. And I got such great feedback from a lot of people that it's like, it relit that fire inside of me of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because sometimes we start our journey into healing and sobriety, and sometimes we forget why we started it and why we're doing what we're doing. And then we come across these phenomenal people in the world, and we have that aha moment, we have that little light bulb. You're like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I remember now, and it keeps you going, so that you can continue helping others, but also helping yourself. Because if we're not helping ourselves, who are we really helping at the end of the day?
Right.
If we're not taking care of ourselves.
And you did mention this, and is very important: the power of community. It's why support groups are so successful. When I'm at a support group meeting, and just to be with people that get it, that understand. I don't have to. Normies don't understand like alcoholic behavior, but when I'm in a support group, everybody nods and laughs. I did that. Yeah, I feel that way. Yeah, my kids did this, and blah, And that power of community is what helps draw out that isolation. And that's why your work is so important.
Yes, it is. It's so important. Community is really what brings everybody together. It's what builds and supports an individual on so many levels. I mean, without community and friendship and all of that, you fall back into that isolation and into those dark places. But community is where everything is at, and that's why in Indian country, we say culture is prevention. Reconnecting to your identity of who you are and where you come from really supports that well-being, because when you get into that connectedness, whether even being non-Indigenous, being non-Indigenous, when you're a part of something, you feel purpose, and everybody has a purpose, and everybody is here on earth for a purpose. You're here to do something and be impactful. And we don't always know how or when it'll show and be done, but we're all here for a reason. And so when we're able to reconnect and be in a community and just be together, we really start to find that purpose and that understanding. And we're able to break those cycles. We're able to stop all of that.
And Michaela, that's a great place to end. This interview has just been amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful to you, and your efforts to break
thank
that.
You so much.
To break that cycle. Michaela Steele, prevention specialist for the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. Thank you very much, and if there's anything we can ever do for you, please feel free to give us a call and let us know. But that was an amazing story, and again, I'm terribly grateful for the time that we had together.
Me too. Thank you so much. I did want to ask, how did you find me?
Just on the web.
Really? That's phenomenal. Well,
all right, Michaela.
The internet does great things.
We got to run, Michaela. Thank you very much. You're listening to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW.
Now it's time for more great moments in gratitude with your host, Joe Volk.
Welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Grateful that you're with us today. As always, can't be hateful and grateful at the same time. Grateful for my next guest. Grateful that she's agreed to be on the program. Alyssa Wood, for a brighter tomorrow. Interesting program. Alyssa, welcome to Generating Gratitude. Explain a little bit about For a Brighter Tomorrow.
Well, For a Brighter Tomorrow is a nonprofit that's been in Midland County for 10 years. And we came about because my parents and myself lost my sister to her active addiction. So, in the wake of her passing, to deal with that, we thought, what is something we could do to help our community? So for over 10 years, we've helped Midland County residents who struggle with substance use disorder. We bridge that gap financially, and we help them with recovery housing, court, probation, and parole requirements. So we will help you with your counseling, your drug testing, if you need to do an impact weekend, because the cost is so much that we don't want to set people up for failure, and we want to help them achieve the goals they're trying to achieve and also get that recovery lifestyle for themselves. That's
fascinating. I'm more fascinated by, how For a Brighter Tomorrow was formed, and you mentioned your sister overdosed.
Yeah, she had an accidental overdose over 10 years ago. And I myself have sustained 13 years in recovery. So I can definitely understand and sympathize with people within the Midland community who struggle in their active illness.
See, I think it's amazing, and I think it's fascinating. People that turn their recovery, like yourself, or trauma, into something good. If you don't mind talking about it, talk a little bit about yourself, Alyssa, about your recovery. Where did you come from?
Okay, well, early in my recovery, I wasn't sure what to do. I tried the traditional abstinence-based and 12-step, and it just really didn't work for me. So I was introduced to medication-assisted therapy So I utilize the Suboxone to kind of lay the foundation of my recovery. And within that, I was introduced to a whole world of recovery. I've been involved with Hope's Not Handcuffs. I've been the recovery coach for peers and family members with FAN, Families Against Narcotics, which is now Face Addiction Now. And I've overtaken program director in the last year for Brighter Tomorrow because I'm in this position now where I can hopefully expand our services and do a little more within our community.
See, I think it's great that you're turning your recovery into this. This is amazing. This interview kind of took a little turn that I didn't know this about you, but I think it's great that it just goes to show you that when you're in recovery. Now I've been in recovery for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes to show you that recovery is active. It's not like recovery is not like a disease where you go to the hospital, you're in there for 3 days, they give you some antibiotics, and you're all better. Mm-hmm. Okay, you walk out and you never have this disease again, or you go in and have your appendix removed, and well, that ain't growing back again.
Right. It's the only disease we can be a better version of ourselves before before our illness, which I think is really powerful in itself.
Tell us a little bit about how did you react to your sister? Now, were you in recovery then, or were you still practicing?
I was still in my active addiction at that time, but I was not agreeing. I was ready to get help, but I wasn't sure how to go about that. So I kind of had cut ties with my sister. But after that, I did have a relapse pretty hard because I didn't deal with that the way I probably should have. And I began to heal myself within a year after her passing.
But that's tough. I've talked to a lot of people who go into recovery, and then that one big trauma hits.
Yep.
And that's really where the rubber meets the road about recovery. But the great thing about recovery is we don't kick anybody out. Mm-hmm. It's not like well, you failed, you can never come back.
Right.
In fact, the dirty little secret about recovery, and you know this, Alyssa, most people do have a relapse.
Yep. You learn what works well and what doesn't work well. And I think we're just trying to make a better choice, right? That didn't work well. Those people weren't for me. And you hopefully learn from that. But we don't ever tell a child we're teaching to walk after we've, held their hands and guided them that they're on their own. And if they repeatedly fall, we look at them and say, well, you're just never going to walk.
Yeah. Failure, kid.
Yeah. We give them more practice. We stay with them longer. We do what we need to do for each other. Cause I think really at the end of the day, only a person who's been in an active addiction can understand truly the gates of hell that we enter.
Oh.
And who better than someone who's been there to reach their hand out and say, I can help you, I can guide you, I can give you suggestions. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm certainly here to give you that light in the darkness that you're in. And it's just beautiful.
You bring up a great point. And this is why I think that the power of community, especially in recovery, is so powerful and necessary, because when you're in a group setting with people in recovery, like you had mentioned, you don't have to explain yourself.
Right.
We've all been there. Nobody is judging you because nobody is in recovery because we're there on a winning streak.
Absolutely.
Nobody's saying, my life is so good right now. Everything's going great. I think I'll go into recovery.
Right? And most of the time you start your recovery unwillingly because you've gotten into some legal trouble.
Yes.
Which can also create, that hesitance because you maybe not recognize I should probably change my patterns and behaviors.
Hey,
Sometimes
I've only
you
been
need that
arrested.
to be brought-
I've only been arrested 4 times. I don't think
Right.
that's a problem, right?
Right. Only when I'm drinking and driving.
Yeah.
So, but
Hey, what's the deal?
yeah. Yeah.
Earlier in the interview, you brought up an interesting item about knowing you were an addict, but not knowing how to get help. Now, I have a theory because I knew I was an alcoholic. I knew I was an alcoholic for like 3 to 5 years before I was able to do anything about that. How long did it take you? Because we know we're addicts or alcoholics, but having that, whether it's hitting bottom or gathering up things haven't gotten bad enough for us to actually turn that knowledge into action. How long did it take you?
Oh, 3-4 years. Way before that, I was aware what I was doing was not okay. But as much as I didn't want to continue to be in that active illness, I couldn't stop. And I didn't know the safe people to go to say, I really need some help. So it continued for some time. I've had 8 overdoses that I remember. I've been, by the grace of God, Narcan saved my life countless times. And 8 times, 10 times, 1 time. We're all individual. And I am very grateful that, I didn't lose my life as well to this disease. Because it could have happened so many times, like I said.
Yeah,
or
because
even putting yourself into
apparently the first 7 times wasn't.
That first one was like, whoa, any other person. But I was like, nah, that was just a fluke. So again, I think it was the denial, and I didn't have that safe person. I also will take accountability, and I lacked picking up some of the tools I probably should have picked up the first time around. So
this is the amazing part about recovery, Alyssa, is that we're now laughing about overdoses. And that's,
I know.
That's the power of recovery. Alyssa, we got to take a short break. Again, I want to talk about For a Brighter Tomorrow, but I discovered so much about you that your story is fascinating. And you're a great example about, 7, 8 overdoses, and until you're dead, you always have a chance for recovery. And we'll talk more about that too coming up. You're listening to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Welcome back to Generating Gratitude here on WSGW. Joe, your host. I'm with Alyssa, who's with For a Brighter Tomorrow, a wonderful program that gives people the resources to provide for the tools for recovery, which is very important and very necessary, because you can't tell people to recover and not give them the means to recover. It's like, well, get better. But Alyssa, before we went to break, you talked about, 8 overdoses?
yeah.
What's it like coming out?
I remember.
What's it like coming out of an overdose?
Sometimes I was really angry that I was brought back, to be honest. Sometimes I was relieved. It got to the point where I knew it was going to happen, which is really terrifying. So, even that didn't do it. I just woke up being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, I'm done. And that's how I got into my recovery.
Wow, because even having the wherewithal to not give up is pretty amazing. Now, how did you recover? What did it after the 8th one?
I got involved with a organization that was kind of like, we meet you where you're at. We want to help you get better. and I got involved with Care 360 Recovery Alliance. And again, I built that rapport. I got with peer support, and I was really shown that recovery can be fun. Recovery can be something that I can enjoy. That recovery doesn't mean my life will be boring and dull. And with that, so many opportunities came, met so many great people, and you really do just build your tribe of people in your recovery corner. And that's really kind of what's kept me where I'm at and keeps me going each day.
I get drunk, we stay sober.
Yeah.
True, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that being able to lean on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's too, sometimes you just want to be heard, right? And
Right.
I don't need you to do or tell me, just hear me. I need to be heard. And that, I mean, it's just being a listening ear. And not judging, too. You know, we would rather, us in recovery, talk to someone who's been there than somebody who has their education on what addiction is and not really ever understood. So, again, peer support's huge.
Yeah, because not knocking people that haven't been there, but
Right.
I don't think you really understand powerlessness until you've been powerless. Normies, as I call them, have trouble understanding why I wanted to drink more than I wanted to attend family events. Now, I still wanted to attend family events, but I was powerless over alcohol. I wanted to just isolate and drink and leave me alone. And until you've been powerless, you don't really understand powerless.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But I think, too, whatever works for you works. You know, if you're trying to help yourself, by any means, do it. 'Cause it's not easy.
Well, that's one of the great things about recovery. There's no cookie-cutter way.
Exactly.
It's not like a regular disease where you take 2 antibiotics 3 times a day. At the end of 4 days, you should be better.
Absolutely.
Whatever works for you. I want to talk a little gratitude, too, with you, because one of the things I like about talking to people that have almost lost it all, you know, whether it's they've been brought back from overdoses or they've lost, you know, the trauma that they've lost it all. Those are amazing people to talk to because they live with such gratitude now. Having had everything almost taken away from you, you kind of appreciate it more now, and you tend to live with gratitude. I would imagine that that's the case with you, Alyssa.
Yeah, I'm pretty grateful. I live a life today I never thought possible, and it's a very simple life. I have a home, I have a car, I have healthy kids. My children want to be involved in my life. My parents are proud of me. They don't worry about me. I'm happy. I'm content. Having a home was a dream in the past. So that right there, it may not seem like a big deal to the normal person, but for 4 years I've held my own, and I'm so incredibly grateful that someone gave me the opportunity to prove myself, and it's just led to beautiful things. Yeah, and I also no longer have that desire to run away from the life I've created.
Yeah, gratitude is just amazing. I find that if I'm grateful rather than hateful, because there are enough reasons to be hateful. This world, social media can provide a litany, but I choose to be grateful today. I choose to look at the things that I'm grateful, like you'd mentioned, a house, food, the love of family members that at one time I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about For a Brighter Tomorrow. This program that you have, you give people the means to afford the tools for recovery.
Yes. So if you are an individual who has gotten maybe into some trouble with probation or going through the courts, or if you need to have an evaluation done, mandatory drug testing or, pre-trial, whatever it is, as far as that goes, we will financially help cover half of that cost. That way you're not going back to jail because you couldn't afford a drug test, or you're not, getting a violation because you couldn't afford your counseling test. And in addition to that, we have County Connection and Dial-A-Ride tickets that we offer our clients so they can get to their groups or their meetings or their work or whatever it is that they need to do to be self-sufficient. And we're also expanding our services to Midland County residents. If you're seeking a safe ride to treatment, we are available and we will get you to your treatment center safe. And after you've completed that treatment center successfully, however long that is, we will come and get you and bring you home. So again, if that's the only barrier, transportation, we're willing to do what it takes to get you where you need to get. So that's some of what we do. We have a yearly fundraiser. We're we earn our finances. We don't have funding by the state or anything. So everything we get is from Midland County community, Midland County support, and then we just give that back to our community as a thank you. Help us help ourselves and help our community. So that's what we do.
Rides are very important because most times,
absolutely,
most times people in recovery have lost their license.
Yep. Absolutely. And how do I get to work? How do I get to see my kids? Those are real life things. And just one, I didn't get to work on time. Now I've lost my job. it can snowball really quickly. So,
yeah. And
again,
especially when you're new to recovery, you're at that fragile point where, oh my God, I lost my job. Now I could go either way.
Yep. Or the fear of am I compliant now? And the fear of am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to go to jail? It can just spiral into a lot.
For a Brighter Tomorrow, Alyssa, your program is incredible. Because again, if we don't give people the tools for recovery, how do you expect them to recover? Now, if somebody wants more information or to donate to your organization, Alyssa, how would we do it?
We have a website. It's www.forabrightertomorrow.org, and we have a donation button right on our homepage. You can reach out by phone with our phone number, or you can also reach out on Messenger or Facebook. I run the Facebook, so I do check it. I'm available for questions, comments, concerns, whatever anybody may have.
And, of course, if somebody was interested in participating for a Brighter Tomorrow, the same contact information?
Yep. Best case is to call us at 330-9035, 989 area code. And we're open Mondays and Wednesdays. I will answer calls or return calls outside of those days, especially if it's a pressing issue. Monday and Wednesday are our days we're open.
For a Brighter Tomorrow, what a great organization. Alyssa, thank you for being on Generating Gratitude today. Your story is incredible, and I think having people tell their stories is important too, because we can all recover. We all may get there in different ways, shapes, and forms, but if we really want it, we can all have the same end result, a grateful life in recovery. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Another blazing edition of Generating Gratitude. And remember, everybody, you can't be hateful and you can't be grateful at the same time. If it were me, I would choose gratitude. It's a better way to go. Have a good week, everybody.